Doug Faith.
And I'm Jeff Greco from Legacy Capital.
And today we're going to be talking about valuing investment properties. And this is actually a conversation that's come up recently with a handful of our clients, just with some of the properties that they were looking to purchase. And properties from an appraisal standpoint are valued differently for residential versus commercial properties. And it's important just to understand high level the differences between the two, so that when you're going to value a property and look to invest in a property, you understand how that's going to be valued from an appraisal standpoint. And so residential is considered 1 to 4 units, and then commercial is considered 5 units or more. And for residential properties, whether it's a single family or a 2, 3, or 4 unit, typically an appraiser is going to use the sales approach to value that piece of real estate. So they're going to look for other comparable sales for square footage, unit mix, all that good stuff to come up with a value for the property. Versus for 5 units or more, or on commercial properties, appraisers they're going to use 2 approaches, but it's going to be more heavily weighted to the income approach. So in other words, they're going to look at the net operating income for that property and what that generates, and they're going to use a cap rate to determine the value of the property off of the income. And they will also take into consideration the sales approach, where they will look for comparable sales for, let's say it's a 5-unit building, they'll look for other 5 units that are comparable and see what those have sold for. And they will take into account both approaches, but it's typically driven by the income approach. And sort of where this has come up in our business and with some of our clients, and the importance of being able to distinguish the two is, some of our clients have done a great job at identifying 1 to 4 unit properties that produce a lot of cash flow. And so rightfully so, they're looking at the asset as how much money is that putting in my pocket every month. And just as an example, let's say there's a 3-unit building that is going to generate $4,000 a month in rent, whereas other 3-unit buildings are generating $2,000 a month in rent, right? That's a significant difference. And so it's easy to think, well, the building that's generating $4,000 a month should be worth more. But on the residential side, they're taking the sales approach, not the income approach. And so that's not always accurate, that just because it produces more income is actually going to give you a valuation on residential properties.
Yeah, and on the residential side, when our appraisers or when our clients are looking at buying properties and either doing their own analysis or maybe they call us to just double check some things before they pull the trigger on something, really when you're talking about a sales approach, at the end of the day, whether it's before you buy a property that needs to get rehabbed, or if you're talking about an after repair value, when, as Doug has explained, when you're talking about the sales approach, really the only thing to quote unquote argue is, are they using the right comps? And so at the end of the day, if you're looking at a 1 to 4 unit residential property, you're looking at comps either on the purchase side to determine an as-is value, or you're looking at comps on the ARV side, depending on the level of rehab and the types of finishes and stuff you're going to use, which is what our appraisers use when they're doing the residential appraisers.
Yeah, so in sum, even if you've identified a residential property that's producing more income and more cash flow, obviously you as the investor are going to be interested in buying that property because it's putting more money in your pocket. But from a valuation standpoint, you need to value it from the sales approach, because that's how an appraiser is going to value it.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that certainly we use appraisals, and then especially if you're creating an income property or further developing the income, you want to understand how your refinance bank or lender is going to value that, so there's no surprises at the end, and so you don't have to fight the fight of, hey, I thought it was this or that. We really want you to be empowered to understand what the lending institution is going to value at, so you know what to expect if you're expecting money out of the refinance or expecting when you do ultimately go to sell it, really empowering you with that type of data to be able to make good, smart investment decisions.